All right. And then if anybody has any questions, just interrupt. It's not a big deal. So what I wanted to do today was talk about Google Slides, but more than just, we all kind of know that Slides is an alternative to PowerPoint as a presentation software. And if I go into an editable version of it, a lot of the same tools are here. You can insert different things. You can change the formatting. You can add transitions in between slides. A lot of the same things that you can do with PowerPoint. So what I wanted to focus on today was more of the interactive side of it. So different things that you can do with students, where they might be able to interact with the slideshow itself, maybe make it a little bit more engaging, different things like that. So that was more of what this focus was going to be. So just a couple things that we can do with Google Slides that are nice, that are unique to Slides over maybe PowerPoint. Being able to see the changes that are made and the fact that they're saved automatically, which for some people is sometimes the weirdest thing about the transition from PowerPoint to Slides, because in PowerPoint, you have to save your progress all the time, and Slides does it automatically kind of here in the background, where you don't really have to actively go and do that. You can also track, viewing history, the activity dashboard here. If you joined us for the Google Docs presentation, this is the same kind of interface where you can see who accessed it and when, as well as, the history of whether it was shared, who it was shared with, if there were any comments that were made and different things like that. So you can kind of see that, that trend as well. And then just like with a Google Doc, you can share this with somebody and you can have multiple people collaborating or commenting or adding different things to a slide. So with the where was I going with that? With Google Docs, we mentioned before that you can add different things like comments and track those changes. So you can do the same thing here within Google Slides. As a collaborator, you can insert comments, for each and everything, and you can tag somebody in the comment, and it'll actually notify them that you're making a comment. So you could be providing feedback to students, or students could be working collaboratively together in that same document there. All right, but the other thing, like I said in the session, I wanted to mention a lot of the interactive features, all the different things that you can insert here into a Google slideshow. A lot of them are the same as Google Docs. So the other day when we talked about HyperDocs, that concept of an interactive document, kind of a home base for students, and they go out and they do things, maybe on another site. They might have some interactive lab on a third-party site that they go out to. So you can do all those same things with a Google slideshow as you can with a Google Doc, but there are a couple differences. And one of them is probably most commonly, the popular one is being able to insert a video directly into the slideshow, which you cannot do in Google Docs. So one thing that you might ask students to do is watch a video and respond to it, or just maybe direct them to that video. And it's really easy to do. All you would have to do is go up here on the slide to the Insert tab and scroll down here to Insert Video. And when you select that, you can actually search YouTube right here. I like the crash course videos for social studies were always really good. And you can just select the one you want and insert it. You can also go by a URL. So if you go and find the video on YouTube first, you can just copy and paste the web address right there into that block. Sometimes people ask about other sources other than YouTube. You can try it. Some of them, like Vimeo or TeacherTube, might work. It depends on the sharing settings on that individual site. So if somebody uploads their video to TeacherTube and they're very strict about the sharing of it, it might not work. But if they're really kind of flexible in the sharing of it, then you might be able to insert that video.
Brian, you mean like for Khan Academy or something like that, they may not let you upload that. Is that what it is? Right. Okay.
Yeah, they might not. But if you even, like, if you were to go to YouTube, it might be easier to actually
To just get something
to
right. Okay.
YouTube.
And you can still use the
Um,
same process of the link, of putting the link in there. So you don't
yep,
have to type the whole thing out because some of them are
the
pretty
whole big long
long.
title.
You just mess up one character and you're done.
Yeah, so you can copy and paste the URL. Some Khan Academy videos are available on YouTube, so you might be able to find it that way. But you could try it from Khan Academy too.
Okay.
And then the third option would be from Google Drive. So if you have the video saved and uploaded to your Google Drive, then you could actually select
Just
that
put
video
it there.
from there
Okay.
and import it that way. So that's as easy as it is to bring it in. The other thing that's really nice that you can do, what I'm going to do is click and select that video and then go up here in the toolbar to format options. And when I click on format options, I have a couple different things that I can do, but video playback allows you to actually select the start and end time of the video. So if I wanted to change that to just, it ends at 5 minutes, I want the students to watch the first 5 minutes of the video, then that's as far as it'll go. They won't know that there's anything more to it than that. So you can give them that really strict parameter of this is the video clip that I want you to watch, which can be a good thing.
Can you start that somewhere in the middle, Brian? If it's like a lengthy one, and you only went from like the first like 2 minutes into it and then on, or no?
Yep.
Oh, you can do
so,
that?
Yep,
Oh,
right here, start at, and then I just change it to 2 minutes, and you'll see
it moves. Okay.
Yeah, the slider bar moves here, so I'll just change it from 0. It goes right to the beginning, and then if I change it to start at 2 minutes in and click out of that box, so where that red dot is, that's where the video will start, and then it'll go up to the end.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm. And then you can also select, if you want, this option to autoplay when presenting. So what that would do is if you are viewing the slideshow like in a full screen, you're presenting it, or even if the students are just watching it in a present view, as they transition to this slide, once the slide loads, that video will start playing. They won't have to click anything to start it or anything like that. So that you can have that option as well. Okay. All right, and then one thing I suggested was just if you're doing this in a classroom and maybe students are kind of working at their own pace through an assignment, maybe suggesting that they bring headphones or earbuds or something, which most of them probably carry in their backpack anyway. But that way you're not hearing 20 versions of the video at all different times and speeds and different things like that. So
you don't want to bring theology into it, Brian, and have like the Tower of Babel? You don't want to do that, huh?
Yeah. Depends on the focus of your lesson. Maybe it would work. So that would be one way that they could interact with it. Another option would be getting students to click and read. So this is something that you can do also pretty easily. What I did here was insert an image, and then I inserted a link. So now students that are on this slide, so let me go ahead and show you what this looks like full screen. So they can actually click on the picture and it'll take them to another website, another page that maybe I want them to learn more about. Or, I also inserted the link here where the words are, and if you click, it'll take you to the same place. All right, so this would be one way. There might be something I want students to do. Maybe I want them to answer questions here in the slideshow, or to watch a video here in the slideshow, but also go out to another site and get more information than I could present or something like that. So all I did for this was just go up here to the insert ribbon again, insert image, and then you have a few different options of where this image is coming from. So you can upload it from your computer if you have it saved to your computer. You can search the web, or you can, if you have it in Google Drive, you can insert it right there from Google Drive. So for this one, what I did was just search the web for a picture of my go-to for these demonstrations of Washington's Crossing, and then just select and insert. And then when that picture comes in, it's just a normal picture. So I went out and found this site about the artist, had a little bit more information. It comes from the Met. And what I did was I went up here to the toolbar and I copied the URL from the toolbar, and I actually clicked on the picture. And let me start from scratch here. Let me remove the link so we can see what that looks like. Can I get rid of that? Okay. So I clicked on the picture, and then up here in the toolbar, you have the option to insert a link. So you click that, and then all I did was paste and apply. All right, now this entire picture becomes a clickable item that the students can click on, and it'll take them to another source. I did the same thing here just with the text. I highlighted the text that I wanted to become a link, and I went up here to the toolbar. It moves a little bit when it's a text because you have more options with text. Insert link, and then just copy and paste. All right, there's a shortcut if you want to do this a little quicker. The control key and the letter K will bring up the same option.
Brian, can you put 2 different links there so that you can tell them there's one for the photo and one for the caption? Can you put 2 different ones there, or do you have to put the same?
You could do it separately if you wanted to. I would put, just for like ease of directions for the students.
The same one, right? Okay.
Either to do the same one, or if you wanted to go to 2 different things, maybe
just put it in there.
Put like a table, like a direction, yeah. Maybe like a table where you have one on one side, one on the other, or maybe you put the image on one side with just a little plain text caption underneath that says click on the image above to learn more. And then over here you might have
in other words, like a HyperDoc. It's 2 different things.
Yeah,
or the directions or something. Okay.
Yeah, just some kind of direction I think would be good. And then here I thought something for students sometimes, to kind of give them that direction, that if they're seeing something that looks a little different, they may or may not understand the idea of a hyperlink. They might realize that this is different text and that they should click on it. But maybe even just directions in the beginning to kind of give them that lead in. And then after you do this once or twice, they'll get the hang of it.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just happy they actually click on it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's video and image. And then other things that you can do, different links to get students interacting either with content or maybe even with each other. So what I did here was I just had text on a slide and inserted a link to go to different places or to different things. All right, so in this example, the first one, the idea of a whole class Google Doc. So this is something I've seen done a couple of times as a collaborative space for students, or a way for students to respond, where you would want maybe a response from every single student. And it's a way to kind of capture that information quickly and fairly efficiently, maybe as an alternative to a discussion board post or something like that. So basically what you're doing here is creating a single Google document that everybody has access to edit. All right, so you are giving the students a little bit of power here to edit the document. So, I put a couple ground rules in here about don't delete anybody else's writing. If you accidentally delete something, you can undo it.
Where is that undo button?
It's the little back out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
If you have a keyboard, you can do Control Z for a shortcut, but the little back-facing arrow up here is the undo. Telling students to leave font size and colors and all that stuff alone, and just some things like that. And then what you can do as the teacher is just preload it with this chart, and I changed the formatting a little bit and just kind of give them a place to put their name, a response, and then here I had them reply to appear, and then they just, each student takes a row and they start adding information to that document. So again, this could be something if you are giving the students this slideshow and they're working at their own pace. Here's a place where you could say, okay, now I want you to respond to this question. Click here to open this Google Doc. They click and it opens, and now they have this space here where they can post a reply. They can see others who replied already. You know, they might have to go back and reply to a peer or something like that. But just a way to kind of get them to interact and to see each other's responses and kind of give everybody a voice. Because I know even for me, like my class, I tend to hear from the same half of the class all the time and the other half not as often. So that might be one way to kind of give them a chance to get their ideas out there.
It's almost like chat on Zoom then.
Kind of.
Like when you're chatting, it's kind of that same concept where you can just, everyone can see it and not interrupt with a comment, but just type it in.
And I've seen people do that, like presenting like I am now, where they've done that as a, they called it like a parking lot. I don't know necessarily where the name comes from, but as a place for people to post their questions, so that they didn't have to like go back and forth with the chat window and Zoom and stuff like that. They just looked at that at the end, and then they just kind of answered the questions all in one shot in the document. But then the document's saved, and everybody can see it later on. So they would have access to those questions and answers if they wanted to use it for anything. And what you could do too is once this is done, once this little assignment is done, you could change the sharing settings so that they could now only view it. Like they could edit it here during the assignment, and then after that's done, you can change the sharing settings that they could only view it, which would essentially lock it from editing in the future.
Do you suggest keeping the whole thing there, like the what is it, the ground rules, and then the response thing all as one document, or would you separate them out?
So this is more for teacher reference. I wouldn't necessarily use that with students. You could, but you wouldn't have to. I would definitely keep the rules in there. Just as kind of a constant reminder of don't delete anybody else's work and that kind of stuff.
Right.
You can track edits. You can see who changed things and what they put in. So if somebody deletes something, you can see who did it as a teacher. So sometimes that's nice to be able to go back and be able to do that. But yeah, I would probably leave the rules, and then like here I would type the question or the prompt to remind them what it is that they're responding to, and then just let them go.
Almost
That's
like
cool.
Notability, that you can do that they get a chance to post and can see, you know, what they're writing. Doesn't have to necessarily, you can hide their names, but they can see what somebody's writing or commenting up there.
Okay. Another thing you can do is redirect students to another place in the slideshow. So you can click and it'll jump ahead to a different slide. So the way you do that is you highlight the text that you want to turn into a link. And then when you go to insert the link, you can paste a URL like we did before, but there's also this option to go to different slides in the presentation. And then come ahead to a specific slide that you want them to answer. One way that I saw this used, I thought was really neat. If anybody remembers the Choose Your Own Adventure novels from when we were kids, they had the students create, I guess it was like to teach cause and effect, and that idea of if you do something, what could happen. So they had the students actually create a slideshow, and at the bottom of every slide, like there was a scenario, and then the bottom, they had two options. And if they clicked on one, it would take them to a branch of the story. It took a long time for the students to do it, but it was pretty neat, the final product. So they use it that way to kind of branch. But even just, you know, for interaction, you could give students choice for what they wanted to do. You could maybe create, you know, two different little assignments. You know, if you want to do this, click here. If you want to do this other option, click here. And then it takes them to a slide with the directions for that assignment. You know, giving them choice might be something to increase engagement as well. And then the last thing I did was, you know, you can include links to other third-party tools. You know, maybe it's a Google form you want them to go and answer a couple questions about. Maybe here they watch this video, and now on the next page, you might include a little bit more information and say, now I want you to go to this Google form and answer a few questions about the video, or you could send them out to a Kahoot if if you want to do like a little review game with them. And then Mentimeter and Poll Everywhere are just quick polling, like different web tools that you can use to poll students and ask like open-ended questions or multiple choice questions, usually like a single question rather than Google Forms where you could have like a full-blown 10-question quiz. These would just be like little maybe check-in questions or something, but the responses to Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere could be easily shared to the whole class, whereas Google Forms might be a little bit more specific to that student. Maybe you don't share those responses. So it's all about what you might want to do with those responses. But again, all I did was here, I took a Google form and so normally when I would go to send it, I can just copy and paste the link. So all I did was copy the link, go here to where I typed the word Google Forms, and I did the same insert link for that as well. And then for Kahoot, if anybody uses that, that will take you right to the game. So the way you do that, log in and get to my, if I can get to my game here, because you can actually set up, where are my, there we go. So when you go to play a Kahoot, you have two options. So you can do the teach version, which is the live version, which, if you're usually doing it in your classroom, you can do with your classes. But you can also assign it where students can go and use a link to participate in the challenge. That's what they call it. So you have these parameters. You can set the date and time that it's due, so that's when it closes. A couple other things. And when you go to create it, it will give you, here it is, this URL right here. So it'll give you a URL that you can copy. And that's all I did was I copied that URL. And here in Google Slides, when I highlighted it, I just inserted that link to the assigned game. And that would be one way to do it. And the same thing with Mentimeter. You had the same kind of process that I just showed with Kahoot. You would have a similar process where once the question was created, you would have a place where you could take a link and share it. And then now, you have this, it's like one full page. It takes them right to the place where they answer the question and they can submit. And the same thing here with Poll Everywhere. It takes them right to the response page. You can put your name in there and then you can put your response and submit. So there's a lot of other, tools out there that, give you different flexibility, different options, things that you might not be able to do right here within Google Slides. But, even, let me shrink this down for a second. If you were with us for the Google Docs training, I guess it was earlier this week, one of the things I showed that I like to do was put like a little box or space for students' answers, so that for me it's a little bit easier to find them. And you could do the same kind of thing here too with a text box. And all I did was, I typed the place I wanted them to insert an answer, went up here to draw a text box, and when I do that, I can, maybe put the outline color so they know to put a little something in there. You can resize it, whatever it might be, if it's a longer response. Sometimes giving them a place, like they can answer questions and things right here within the slideshow. But to be able to do that, they have to be able to edit the slideshow. And by that, I don't mean give them editing rights to yours, but making a copy of it that they would edit their own copy once you've created it. So that would be another option as well. So you can use these different third-party tools out there that you can collect answers or responses that way, but you can also, if the students make a copy of the slideshow, they can put their responses right there within the slides. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Another thing that you might ask your students to do is to view and listen. So I think Marcia might be my only other fellow.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, cause of World War I. I saw that right away.
So the typical causes of World War I. So here was something that I did, like a simple, here's your 5x5 rule for slideshows, right? Where you have 5 words, no more than 5 bullet points, which they say is ideal, but I think this is the only time I've ever been able to do that. So what I did here was I had a couple bullet points, the things I would want to share, but I also inserted an audio clip. So this is actually me talking, and I will not subject you to that, but explaining, causes of World War I and that kind of stuff. And, it's a short clip just for this demonstration, but that's something that you can do too, is up here in the insert ribbon and go down here to insert audio. You can insert any audio files that you have within your Google Drive. And, that makes it a little bit more challenging because you can't record right here. But if you have another place that you can record, whether it's an app on your iPad or even on your phone, just to record the audio portion of it, some people don't really like this, although we're a lot more comfortable with it now after the last couple months of the webcam view. But some people like just to have their voice narrating and kind of like giving the notes that they would have given in class, or adding a little extra information that way. Sometimes it's easier than it is to type it all out. It's easier just to talk about it. So using an app like that, even just GarageBand or some things, there's different ones that are out there just for voice recording. You can take that file and upload it to Google Drive. And I would suggest, naming it something where you can figure out what it is. Like if you look at this 4th one here, this is just the generic name that was given, whatever the recording was on a phone, and it means nothing. So you'd have to play it every time to know what it is. But if you're able to give it a meaningful file name, you can find it pretty quickly and easily. And then once you insert that audio, it comes in as this little speaker icon. And then the students, when they're here in slideshow, can just go and click right on it, and it'll start to play. And that'll let them hear what it is you have to say. And up here at format options, you have here under audio playback some of the same things as the video, where you can start playing either automatically or on click. So automatically would be as soon as they transition to the slide and it's done loading, then the audio would start to play. Otherwise on click here, like in the example, I gave them the direction to click play because it's not going to play automatically. And you can modify the volume or if you need to. And this idea of stopping on slide change, so once they go to the next one, the audio is not going to continue to play and maybe blend into to another slide if you have multiple in a row with audio in it.
Brian, can you use something else from another site other than your own recording? Can you put in another clip from somewhere else?
You could. So the professional in me, because this is being recorded, would say make sure you have the copyright, like all that stuff squared away.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But yeah, you would just need to have the MP3 file, like the audio file, saved to your Google Drive to be able to insert it.
Okay.
Okay.
Brian, this would be almost like doing a screen recording, like that. We've done something like that, I guess, during this time, teaching from home, making the slides presentation, and then screen recording so that they play it and they have your voice and the notes. But if you did this and you inserted an audio on each slide, then it would stay as slides where they can advance to a slide when they want to and hear your recording of each slide. If you put that, is that kind of?
Yeah, you're right. One way to think about it would be when you're doing the screen recording, you're creating a video.
Right.
right? So however fast you go, that's as fast as the video is going to go. What you're doing here is you're taking a slideshow and you're adding some voice notes to it. So
Is the
it is a
purpose
little
the
bit,
same, or is this, maybe this is better in that they can stop it and, well, I guess they can stop the screen recording as well, but I just thought to be able to look back on the notes and study from them separately if they didn't need to hear the audio all over again.
yeah, and it might be easier to like in a slideshow, go to the specific slide that you need to review, rather than in a video where you'd have to kind of fast forward, rewind, and get to the right spot. You know, it might be a little bit easier. I think ultimately they're doing the same thing. I would say whatever's easier for you.
Mhm.
You know, if it's easier for you to just create the slideshow and you know, insert the audio. But if you have like a, you know, this is a, how long is this? 11 slide presentation. If it's too much to record 11 slides worth of audio separately in chunks, you know, that might prevent you from doing it. I don't know everybody else's experience if they did the screen recording, but I've done them in the past, and I've done them for like 15-minute videos. And one of the tough things is if you get to minute 14 and you make a mistake, you know, you either can edit it or, you know, God forbid, have to go back and start all over again. So this would be nice in that sense, because you're just doing one slide at a time.
Right. Okay, thank you. So this is just another option we could use.
Sure. And too, Joanne, if you're going to do that with the format options, what you could do is have the audio play automatically, and when you do that, you have the option to hide when presenting. So this little gray circle wouldn't actually be part of your presentation. You would see it here as an icon, so you can click on it and make these changes. But when you're actually viewing the presentation, you wouldn't actually see it if you play it automatically.
All of these options on the right-hand side come up when you hit format options.
Yeah, so you have to select the audio icon first,
Right.
and then format options will come up here in the toolbar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be one option. And then other things that you can insert that you can't always do with Google Docs, or maybe not as easily, is different things like drawings and shapes. So up here in the insert ribbon, a lot of these are similar. You've probably seen them and used them in Word or PowerPoint. So all your basic shapes are in here that you can click and draw, and then you can modify them. You can change the color of them. You can change the border color of them, whatever you need to do. So, you know, sometimes certain things like arrows for emphasis are nice. I've known people to use like different shapes, like the box or something like that to highlight something of importance that you want students to do, or to note. I've seen call outs used a lot of times with like image annotation, where you might have students to, you know, use an actual image, and then they would have a couple different of those call outs, you know, like thought bubbles or something, and have them write what they think that that person would be saying or thinking in that point in time. When you're editing it, all you have to do is double click on it, and it actually becomes a text box where you can type right in the shape there. You can also insert charts and graphs. So that's up here in the insert ribbon, and down here in charts, bar graphs, line graphs, pie graphs. And what you can do then is it links this chart to a Google Sheet. And if you open the source, so I just click that little down arrow and the open source here, and it opens up that Google Sheet. And here in the sheet, you can edit the columns, the data, and all that stuff. And as you change it, it will manipulate the chart and then translate those changes back here to the slideshow. So, John, I was thinking for you, especially with science, you know, if students are charting their data or anything like that that they're trying to keep track of, depending on what it is, they might be able to create the chart here in Google Sheets, and if they're presenting it or something like that, they can have it here in their slides presentation as well. Or even if you give them the basic chart and you ask them to change values or manipulate variables and see how it changes the chart, that might be an option as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. I have to think it through, but
Yeah.
I could see where it would apply definitely.
And then the last one here, diagrams. So this is something that's unique to Google Slides as well. So insert, and then down here in diagrams, I'm actually going to go to a blank slide for this one because it ends up taking up the entire slide when you insert it. But the diagrams have a couple pre-built diagram types. So, you know, a basic grid, hierarchy chart, timelines, processes, relationships, and cycles are the basic structures. And then when you select one, like I'll pick on timeline, they have a couple different formats of what that timeline could look like. So you have the one here with the zigzag. You have one here that actually allows you to input quite a bit of information about the dates. This one's a vertical one, which is kind of tough in a slide given the dimensions of it, but it does give you a lot of space out to the right to edit and add some information. And then these down here even look like Gantt charts. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that, and you can pick up to 6 dates. So you are kind of limited. 4, 5, or 6 are your only options there for something like a timeline. But if you take that and insert it, it will, like I said, take up basically the entire slide. And now here you can edit the text, and you can put, you know, whatever dates you might need to have there in the chart. So, you know, this is something that maybe you could give the students a list of dates, and then they have to input information, what the event was, what happened in the event, more description. Might be a little bit easier to create or edit that timeline for them, because sometimes that's something that's actually tough to do. I haven't found very many good programs for the iPad for different activities, things like that, especially, you know, for social studies, trying to put events in order or events in context, even English too, trying to put the larger context in place of the story, or the story in place of larger context. But however that might work for you, there's all these different drawing tools that are available for timelines and diagrams and things like that.
Right, you'd have to have that in that edit mode, the ability to edit, right, when you're doing that. So if you have them fill that timeline in, you'd have to be in that where they could change it, correct?
Yep. So again, that would be one that I would say, if you were going to do something like that, I would have them make copies of the whole slideshow so that they could put their own answers in there.
All right.
And that way they're not editing your original.
Okay. All right.
Brian, with the shapes and callouts, is
Mhm.
there a way that you can animate them like you can in PowerPoint?
That's a good question. Let's see. I put a shape in there and animate. That's the slide object animation. You can, let's see what your options are.
I click, all right.
Yeah, so you have to select the object first. But yeah, there's a couple. I don't know if it's everything that you can do in
That's okay. I
PowerPoint.
just need to appear and disappear.
Oh, okay.
Because what I sometimes do is I highlight one particular part of a shape
Mhm.
and I have that appear and then I have it disappear so we can continue on. So that's, now is that for the entire slide or is that just for the shape?
Just for the shape.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And where is animate, Brian? Where did you?
So what I did was I selected the shape, and then up here in the top right, there's the 3 dots for more options.
Okay, well, your picture was covering it. That's why I couldn't.
Oh,
see
is
it.
it? Oh,
then you
okay,
go to
yeah.
More options. More options, and then it
And
just
then animate is
okay.
the very last option there, which
Okay, great. Thank you.
kind of new. So, yep.
Brian, when you're deciding between doing like Google Slides or a PowerPoint or a Prezi, like what
Mhm.
is there one that leads you one place or another? I mean, I'm not teaching class like the teachers are every day, but there's sometimes when we are doing presentations to kids, you know, over the quarantine, we were sending out those presentations to the kid and we were voicing over the Prezi. But like if I do a parent presentation and I just want, you know, like a PowerPoint to show the parents as I'm speaking, you know, like a timeline. Here's what you do as a freshman. Here's what you do as a sophomore. Here's what you do as a junior in terms of college and career exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend one vehicle over another for a certain reason?
If you are just presenting and the students are just looking at it, it doesn't really matter. I would say if you were going to have the students do something with it, Prezis can't be edited on an iPad. So they can't really even do Prezis on an iPad. PowerPoints currently cannot be edited on an iPad. They can be viewed on an iPad. So students can watch your presentation. Anything you put into a PowerPoint, animations, audio, like anything that you create, they can view it correctly on an iPad, but they can't edit or create their own. So if you want them to actually do anything with it or interact with it at all, Google Slides is pretty much right now the only option.
Gotcha.
You know, Keynote is available too, but it seems like just based on surveys and stuff that the majority of our teachers and the majority of our students aren't totally comfortable with that yet. They never really learn Keynote or really the Apple products unless their parents are Apple users and they have that at home and grew up with that.
Okay.
Certain teachers have used it successfully, but they've had to spend some time to like teach and show the kids how to use Keynote. And Keynote would work very well, but in terms of like ease of use, I would say Google Slides is probably the easiest if that's going to be, like I said, if the students interacting with it is going to be your goal.
For interaction purposes. But if you're let's say doing a parent session by Zoom, because that's what we were doing this spring, is the iPad more friendly to Google or to Google Slides or to PowerPoint, or doesn't it matter? Like if someone's watching
for viewing it, for viewing it, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same in terms of like how it looks and the dimensions, size and shape of the screen and that kind of stuff. So yeah, for viewing purposes, it's pretty much seamless from one to the next.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right, and that takes me to my next part, which has to do with distributing this to the students. And basically the same things if you were with us for the Google Docs session. So if you're a Google Classroom user, you can add the slideshow as part of your assignment. And you can even choose the option that gives all students a copy automatically. And then if you are using Sapphire to distribute this with your students, you would just go up here to the share button. And then down here, you would want to make sure that everybody with the link has access to view it only, so that they're not editing your original. And then you would just copy that link and paste it when you share a link on your Sapphire page. The one little trick that I showed, you might remember from the last one, if you take that URL and just change the ending of it, so it comes out as this /edit, this whole little thing here. If you get rid of everything after the slash and change it to the word copy, it'll prompt the students to create their own copy before they can even view it. So that's something, if you want them to interact and maybe add some things to it, type in it, or anything like to modify it in any way, if you give them that ability to make a copy of it right off the bat, that's something that they can do, and then they can modify the document, but only their copy and not your original.
Brian, that's for Google Slides, for Google Docs, any Google thing will have that edit at the end that you change to copy.
Yes. Yep.
So they can make so if the link is different, they can make a copy of Slides, and then would they have to open it in Notability if they were going to add their own notes to it, like from using this as a classroom presentation, but then they're going to add their own notes to the slides at the same time?
I mean, they could, if they're going to type directly on the slides, they could open it. It'll open in the Slides app, the Google Slides app.
Okay.
All right. And then once it opens in the app, then they can edit. They'll have like the iPad version of what we're looking at right here.
Okay.
And then they can just type right in it and edit. And
then save it somewhere as their own personal note.
yep, it'll save right to their Google Drive as their own personal version of the document
Okay.
or of the slideshow.
Which would be better? If you're having them take notes on your presentation, like
Mhm.
directly onto the presentation, would it be better to have something you can open in Notability, or would it be better to have it as a Google Doc?
Well,
Most of mine is going to be math.
yeah. Let's see. So I guess it would be up to you. I can't really see too many advantages one way or the other. The only thing is, you know, Google Drive is accessible anywhere, you know, saves automatically, that kind of stuff. Notability, the students should have it set up to auto backup, to save to as a PDF to Google Drive automatically, but that's not a guarantee. So, you know, if something happens, they might lose access to their copy, their original copy. But probably for math, especially like for the drawing and the annotating, it might be easier on Notability. So it might just be more important to make sure that they have that backup set up.
Okay, so it's kind of with personal preference as far as how they prefer it, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, it's going to depend on what you want to do. Like if you want if you're going to set this up like a HyperDoc and you want them to go through and watch this video, click here, learn more about something. Now click and go out to something like that. As a slideshow in Google, that would be a lot more helpful than in Notability.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be, here's my notes. Now I want you to, like, I have a couple spaces for you to do practice problems and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that would be fine in Notability.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then that was distribution. And then the only other thing, so the slides that'll be available as soon as this is over, I put a couple examples in here to just different of these ideas of HyperDocs and what it looks like, or what it can look like in just a Google Doc, you know, giving students a space to respond and do these different things. And then here as a slideshow, you know, having students having the ability to kind of go in and, you know, these are a lot busier than the one that I just showed, but, you know, having the students go in and interact with these things a little bit. So just so you can kind of see what other examples might look like. So those are there as well as the help page for Google Slides. But that was all I had for today, just to kind of show some of those other features beyond just the regular slideshow tools. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want me to go over again?
That was great. Thanks, Brian.
Sure thing.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. That was great.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Everybody enjoy your weekend.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good weekend.